We've got another Oddisode coming for you. We appreciate you guys tuning in a couple extra times a week, and we really appreciate our guests that have been on the show. If you're a new-time listener, check us out. Subscribe. We're Oddity Files, the podcast, and we bring you creepy, cryptid, otherworldly stories that we find on the internet. We have a huge library to go back and binge on. We appreciate your time. Remember, stay safe, stay healthy. Weird is the new cool, and ghost on. Hey guys, Kitsie here with another Oddisode. A couple weeks ago, I was on somebody else's podcast. What? I know, but it's called A Haunt Mess. And I got to meet my new BFF. She doesn't know it right yet, but she's my new BFF, Sara. Sara, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hello. Yep. So I am part of a haunt mess with Courtney and Dee Dee. Courtney is with Haunt Jaunts and Dee Dee is with Haunted Hour on Twitter. And I was asked by Courtney. She followed my team, which is VP Paranormal. She followed my team for actually a few years, and we always had a really good rapport, and we kind of like to go back and forth. And she's like, "Hey, you guys want to do a podcast? I would love to have you guys do something where we're all kind of have different philosophies and maybe styles, and we're all in different areas of paranormal." So yeah, we started a haunt mess and we got to meet you. And no, you were my BFF first, actually. I think I claimed you first. So I'm all good with that. I'm all blushing over here.
Aw, that's awesome. How long have you been investigating for?
I would say, like off and on 20 years. I've been doing this a while. My sisters and I started this team, VP Paranormal, very original. We just took our last names and made a title. So it's like VP for each of our last names, and then the R in paranormal is for one of the sisters for her last name. So we've been kind of into this a long time. My sisters are like 10 and 7, 8 years older than I am. So I was kind of always thrusted into this world of kind of following along with them. So I've always loved to be scared. Well, love, hate it, right? Like I always loved, hated it when I was a
Yeah.
little girl. And so we kind of it just kind of happened. And then we just kind of joined everybody else and went, well, we might as well slap a name on it and be a little bit more organized about it. And so we did that. And, here we are. And we've changed over the 20 years a million times. Just like the podcast, my sisters and I are not necessarily all in agreement to our beliefs or how things happen. And we change constantly. So yeah. About 20 years. This kind of goes by fast.
Oh, tell me about it. I'm not near late 20 years. I was a very, very late bloomer, but I cannot even imagine investigating with my sisters, though. Talk about polar opposites, all four of us. So there's no way that would happen.
Oh, it's such a great, like, we happen to like each other, which is amazing. And it's good sister time. We all live in different areas. I live in Michigan. The oldest sister lives in New York and the other one lives in Texas. So it kind of gives us like something to kind of shoot for once or twice a year, that we do kind of the bigger investigations. And then we kind of all do our own thing and consult each other. And they're great support on the podcast and anything that I do outside. Like they think this is great that you invited me to come on and talk, and they don't like to talk. They don't like to be the face of the team. So anytime I get to be, they're like, yeah, do it. Go out there and say something. So yeah.
So are you all originally from Michigan? That's where you're at, correct?
That's where I'm at. So yeah, so my story is, yes, we are from Michigan. I was born here. However, when I was about 7 or 8 years old, we moved to Texas. So I grew up in Texas, and I should say just recently. See, I feel like I'm still 18. So this is really weird for
Girl,
me.
same.
I moved back to Michigan in 98 after my mom passed away. So just to kind of, get my head together, and I was going to only stay here for about a year. But I met my husband and my sister who lives in Buffalo. So Detroit and Buffalo, it's like a 4-hour drive across Canada. So it was kind of a perfect little situation that I could see her more often. So yeah, I, kind of moved. That's why I've got one sister left in Texas. She stayed there and made a life, and which is great because then I can kind of go home there and see her and stay here and kind of be
Yeah.
home base and all that kind of stuff.
But
Yeah.
that Michigan accent is strong, girl.
Oh, how dare you?
I love it. I love it. I grew up right outside Chicago. So when I get drunk, I call it my Wisconsin accent, even though I never lived in Wisconsin. But the hey there, don't you know's come out and the soda and the
Oh.
stuff and things. Anywho, so I guess we should get back to some ghosty talk. So I know you've been thinking about stories you want to tell. Is there any that you're just dying to get out there, or do you want me to go for the hard hitting, standardized? What was your scariest experience? I'm going to leave it up to you.
Oh, well, I'm going to just put it out there right away. I've done this a while, and I really do think paranormal is kind of a state of mind. And so
Mhm.
I'm not going to be your guest I don't have these great demonic, I've been pinned down or thrown against a wall. I don't have anything
Thank
like that.
God.
I think I've had, Yeah, but I think that the experiences that we've had, I think have always been, I don't want to say life changing, but a little life altering in the sense that, they make you think, and then it really did shape, I think, in the last good 8 to 10 years for me, really has shaped kind of how I view it and how I explore it. And then other things that I do outside of paranormal that I use in paranormal. Um, so I would say my best story, I did talk to my sisters about this.
Mhm.
Probably my best story is gonna be the boy in Baghdad. I was in Texas about, boy, 8 years ago.
Okay.
It was in January, and my sister and I went out, and she was gonna take me to a couple locations. They've got some great she's in Central Texas. She's in Austin, or, right outside of Austin. So, there's some great old cemeteries, and she wanted to take me to a cemetery called Baghdad.
Okay.
And I didn't really have any information on this particular cemetery at all. So it was a rainy day. That was a Saturday. It was a rainy day. And we went out to explore a couple different locations, and we happened to hit this cemetery the last of the day. And it wasn't dark yet. It was just really overcast. I will say I used the ghost app on my phone called Ghost Radar. Now, I'm not saying that I use this
Okay.
as actual evidence. However, I do find that it has, I don't know, some very interesting words that pop up on it that kind of make you go, now, how would it know that, or how would it do that? And I guess you could say maybe it's got some sort of I don't know, a map locator on you. But I
Yeah.
do find it
You
as,
never
I use
know.
it for, you never know. And I use it for fun. Like, I don't really ever take that super serious, but it's something to go on, right? So we turned
Yeah.
on the ghost radar, and we're walking around the cemetery. And when you pull up, it's a cemetery that's out in the middle of the country. Used to be, I will tell you that. Now it is built up. But
Okay.
when we went there 8 years ago, it was out in the middle of a field, not a lot of neighborhoods around, so really desolate. We pulled up, we walked. When you got to the top of the driveway, the left side of the cemetery was historical, and then the right side was a little bit more of the newer tombstones or grave
Okay.
sites. So we're walking around, and I got my sister and her two kids who were teenagers at the time, and a couple words pop up, and all of a sudden the name Carlos popped up. I was like, oh, look at,
What?
a name. Yay. Right. Yeah. So we're like, Carlos. Okay. And it's like, hey, Carlos, we're going to come back and see you. We'll be back tonight, blah, blah, blah. Right. We're walking around. I don't think that I was subconsciously taking in any headstones. I really don't think, I've never been to the cemetery before. So we were just kind
Yeah.
of looking around. But for whatever reason, I decided I was going to talk to this young kid or guy, whatever. I didn't know at the time, right? Like, okay, yeah, Carlos, we're
Mhm.
going to come back. And we continued to talk to him throughout the day at my sister's house and driving around, like, we're coming back, we're coming back. So that night we gathered our equipment and took my nephews and a couple of their friends. And we snuck into the cemetery because a lot of people don't realize cemeteries are actually legally closed, like dusk till dawn, right? You're not supposed to legally be in there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I don't promote, trespassing,
Right.
but as I took my nephews in there, we were like, we're going to trespass tonight.
So this was at 12 in the afternoon is what you're saying?
Right. So we go there in the middle of the night, which now you're in the middle of a, country land, and it's dark, and we walk up there, and we've got our flashlights here and there, and we're just doing some stuff. with recording. And I think we had the K2 meters, the original ones, little handheld gray ones.
Mm-hmm.
We had a night vision video recorder. And so we kind of, of course, you're excited. It's these kids are young, right? They're all excited to do this. And I give them each a job, and everybody's kind of like their anxiety is a little high, right? So we're all kind of running around, and we did get a couple unusual EVPs, I will say. It seemed like we got somebody to say a name, and it sounds like we got humming on one of our recordings,
Ooh.
which was kind of weird. So, as we kind of busted up, because everybody was kind of walking around, I said to my oldest nephew, hey, I think we should go to the historical side of the cemetery and let's do a K2. Like, let's just do, a Q&A. And he's like, okay. So I said, let's look for a headstone. And I'm kind of looking around and can't see anything. And I'm trying to keep the flashlights off because I really didn't want the cops up there.
Yeah,
So,
that and bugs.
right, that and bugs, especially Texas, because this is not fun. So I was like, okay, let's choose this one. So I touched a headstone and I said to my nephew, look in the camera and tell me what the name is. And he's like, Aunt Sarah, there's not a name on it. I said, come on, I know it's old, but there's got to be a name. So I kind of ran my hand over the front of it. I said, I can feel it. There's something there. So I put the flashlight on, and I shit you not, it was Carlos.
No.
The weird thing was this, normally the last name is what's large, not on this
Yeah.
headstone. His first name was the large, and his last name was very small underneath his name, which I do have a
Oh
picture of.
my.
And he was a little boy, and he was the age of my youngest daughter. Now, I
Oh.
don't think I saw that headstone, or because I really tried to logically think okay, Sarah, you clearly probably saw this headstone. How would I have picked
Yeah.
this one out of all these headstones? I don't think that I saw it. I don't know how I would have found it in the dark anyways. It's not like I have any, I don't know the cemetery. It
Yeah.
wasn't anything that I kind of had previous knowledge of. So we sat down and we did a K2, and I will be honest, we got nothing, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Got pictures taken with the headstone, and I did talk to him. And so at the end of it, I said, well, I think we should give him a little something for his time. And I had a
Yeah.
pair of gloves in my pocket. And I had 50 cents in my pocket. So I said, well, I'll leave him the 2 quarters. So I left 2 quarters on his headstone and thanked him. And as we were leaving and walking down the thing, we were kind of excited, but everybody was like, did you know that was there? And I don't think I did. I mean, then you start feeling like, God, am I making this up? Like, I don't know what just
No,
happened.
been there, done that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was leaving for home at the next morning. And so my kids at that time were 8 and 10. And so, got picked up from the airport and trying to get the kids ready for school the next day. And as I'm doing laundry, I notice I find 2 quarters on top of the dryer. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not unusual. You're doing laundry and people have
Right.
change in their pockets. Okay, fine. Take the girls to school the next day, doing little chores around the house. 2 quarters in the dining room. Like,
What?
okay, now, and I don't mean 2 quarters and a penny or a dime, a nickel, and a quarter. I mean just 2 quarters. So,
Whoa.
yeah. So I don't know if, I was thinking about this last night when it came to trying to tell a story that kind of meant something to me. It's not really scary by any means, but at the time, my 8-year-old was having extreme difficulty going to school for a really silly reason. Somebody in the first grade had thrown up during tasting of the greens for St. Patrick's Day. And so
Oh
she got
no.
really grossed out and didn't want to go to school anymore. So, of course, Monday through Friday,
Yeah.
every day we had a tummy ache, right? So, and it would be crying going into school and all that stuff. So she was my anxiety for her was so high because her anxiety was so high. So, is
Right.
it that where I was in my life with an 8-year-old that I attracted this 8-year-old in the cemetery? Because out of all the names that could have popped up and out of all the tombstones I could have found, it was like, how did Carlos come to be? Like, how did that all even happen? Like, do we
Yeah.
attract it? Like energy attracts, maybe the energy that I was carrying was much like, I mean, he died at a very young age in the late or I'm sorry, it would have been the early 1900s. So when he passed, was it because his mother had such high anxiety for whatever illness he might have had? And so maybe whatever I was walking in with, because it was hard for me to even get away for that long weekend because she was so
Yeah.
stressed. So, I don't know if it was a combination of that energy, anxiety, but I would say for me, that was probably the first time where you kind of say, and as I'm telling this story to you, you think to yourself, like, somebody else hearing it might kind of go, I don't know, not a big deal. Yeah, it's not really anything
No, I
super
get it.
scary, but what was that connection, right? Like, what are those connections we make? I guess for
Hmm.
me, that's kind of where I started to really understand, like, these are probably more personal than stories that need to be shared all over social media. Although I did share it, I don't think it really got much attention. But you just kind of go, are these? Maybe it's just for me. Maybe that was just for me at that moment. So that's
Yeah,
my little
no,
boy in the back.
it's a beautiful story. I love that. And honestly, it sounds like our investigative styles are very similar. It's like you make that connection like you did that afternoon, and it was he was just in your head the rest of the day until you went back. That's how I am on an investigation. I make a connection with one of them because a lot of places I go to, they're very haunted by several spirits. And that's the one that communicates with me the entire time we're there. So it's just become a
Right.
thing within the last 2 years for me. And some of these places are known for completely different hauntings than the spirit I connect with. I
Right.
don't know if they just seek people like us that are more open-minded. I don't know.
I think this is what I've kind of learned in definitely the last 18 years. So when we first kind of, when it kind of first got out there with the TV shows and you could start going to some of these locations that were on TV, we would do some of those public hunts. And so you would have anybody from, right, just a novice to an enthusiast to say and I'm doing air quotes, professional paranormal people, right? So you're kind of a good mix of all of us in there. And I wouldn't have said at that point. I mean, we had a lot of the equipment. I mean, I looked pretty cool. I have my little fireman bag that you strap to your leg and you can do and put all your little equipment in. I mean, I think I looked pretty official, but I probably wasn't any more official than anybody else. But I think what I really got into when I started to do these public hunts was I kind of stopped looking for the ghost and really became a voyeur of other paranormal people and really trying to understand, like, how could I be in the same location with somebody and they're having these amazing and just huge paranormal experiences, and I'm sitting there going, I got nothing. Like, I'm getting nothing. Like, how is this person literally right next to me saying all sorts of crazy shit? And I'm like, I'm feeling nothing. So I
Yeah.
really think the psychology of watching people kind of get out there and do their investigating, and it becomes a little bit of a look at me, and I'm special, look how the
Yeah.
ghosts come to me. So I think that, yes, what you said was, I think that especially when you go to some of those, like, locations, like you said, there's always like the story, and there's always a
Mhm.
star in the ghost world. I don't usually get those connections either.
That's an excellent way to
Yeah,
put it.
I don't get those connections either. I usually probably um, I probably am attracted more to the lesser known because I kind of always feel like I'm the lesser known. That's not a sob story either. That's just really kind of been, the way of my life. So I think I'm always on the outside of the circle. And so where that mob mentality comes in with the stories, especially some of the locations, there's a particular location in New York that we go to, and they talk about a gentleman named Roy. Never ever in my life, and I've been there a handful of times, have I ever had anything remotely like so many people have said they've had. But then you
Right.
get these little things, and I think those are more interesting because there's always so much more to the story, right? Like, it isn't just about
Right.
one person, and it's not about one investigator. So why not hear about them all?
Absolutely, I totally agree. And I think it just depends on the investigator, like you said. That the fact that you would go to these public hunts and just kind of watch everybody else do their thing sounds amazing to me, but I hate people, so I don't do public investigations.
Yeah, now my secret's out, and everyone's gonna be like, "Don't go if Sarah's gonna be on this public hunt." Well, you know what it is? I think it used to bother me in the beginning watching people, and I'm sure it was a little bit of jealousy, right? Because I could have been in a
Yeah.
room and not gotten anything, and then the next thing you know, 2 little old ladies go in there like, "Oh my god, the room's spinning around and shit's flying off the wall." It's like, "No, it's not." Why?
Yeah.
Why are you saying that? And then I'm like, "Well, why?" I think that, the more I watch people, even the more that I do home investigations, and we did talk about this on a haunt mess with you. I really do think people want you to join them in their fear, and we become these little demon slayers. And look at us, I have not. I can tell you at this point in my life, not even close am I a ghost wrangler. I don't think that I control the other side. I will never
No, me
tell somebody that I
neither.
will cross the spirit over. I don't think it's my job to cross the spirit over.
I'm afraid I'm going to fuck it up.
Yeah, right. Well, we've never been. How would I know where to send them? I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't use Christian narrative in my investigations. Now, if a homeowner is highly Christian, and it doesn't mean that I'm not. I actually practice Buddhism, so I just, for me, it's all about controlling your energy. So if a homeowner is
That's why
into
I like you.
well, it's a new
Sorry.
thing for me. I've been doing it for 8 years. So, but and I do try to offer that to people when you do people's homes. Um, I think that if they like a Lord's Prayer, I have no problem participating in it. But I'm
Okay.
also going to add to that everybody needs to understand all you control is your energy. That's it. You cannot control anything else. So if we are interacting with something from the other side, we've only been doing that since the dawn of man, which means we've always coexisted. So we need to remember you can only control, it's like trying to control your partner, right? You can't control your
Mm-mm.
living partner. So why the hell would you think you can control a non-living partner? So we just try to
Right.
control our energy. And I just try to give people techniques to remain calm, because I think our overreactions tend to maybe make things seem a little different. I know, see, this is where I
Agreed.
get very unpopular. This is where I get very unpopular with people. This is where people are like,
I
this is why we
agree.
don't include you. But I just think that, yes, it takes the fun out of it. But I think if you really want to understand what's going on, I think it's really just about energy and controlling your own, and understanding that yes, you can ask things. I suppose you can say, can you not bother me? But in the end, if they want
Yeah.
to be here, they're going to be here.
Amen
So,
to that. I agree 1,000,000%. It is about energy, and I've that's one thing I've learned throughout this. It's the energy you bring, especially because I don't do houses. Like I said, I'm afraid I'm gonna fuck it up, make it worse. I don't know what I'm doing. I just make it up as I go. But when we go into
we
these
all
notoriously
do.
haunted, yeah, exactly. When we go into these notoriously haunted locations, I just bring my energy, my personality, and my crew does as well. And I think energy, like you said, energy attracts like energy. And that's why we're not getting shit thrown at us. And these people are wanting
Mhm,
to tell us their story and communicate with us. I
mhm.
don't know. I would be pretty pissed off if I was a ghost and people were screaming at me for absolutely no reason. I would throw shit too. And I'm not a demon. So just putting that out there.
I one of our guests, Chris Summers from Soul Sisters Paranormal, I really appreciated. She's got such a southern charm about her. She's in Florida, and she actually, I love the way she explained it. She's like, I believe this is Chris Summers. Boy, my memory's so bad. I probably shouldn't be putting names to this, but she's like, we don't walk into somebody's home and just start demanding things from them, right? Like, you want to get to know them, and hey, like, were you a part of the war here? Or, like, you would be friendly about it. But I think for me, paranormal has not become, hey, everybody follow me. It's really just become like, I'm looking for open conversations, and I'm looking to further expand my mind, because it's changed every single investigation. I can think one thing, and especially 20 years ago, I could have thought, nope, absolutely. It's like having kids, right? Like, I'll never do that with kids. Well, yeah, guess what? You have them and you're like, yeah, well, guess what? You will. You'll do whatever.
You
And
say everything
you
you
won't be the
said you'd never say that your mother says.
That's right. I mean, so I think with paranormal, if you're not open to change, and you're not open to see all different possibilities, which some may not even be paranormal. And I think that's where, and Dee Dee and I on Haunt Mess, sometimes I don't think we agree on this, which is, I think this is great, but we always talk about who actually is more open, right? Like, I personally think paranormal people are less open than non-paranormal people, because I know many people who don't like paranormal like I do, and they might not believe it. But if you tell them
Mhm.
something, or they have something happen, they kind of go, well, this one time this was kind of odd, or what could this be? But boy, if a
Yeah.
paranormal person has something in mind, they will not, I mean, they dig their heels in and you're wrong and they're right. It's like, well, just because you believe in paranormal doesn't mean you're open-minded. I mean, there could be some
True.
logical explanation, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and I think, and it doesn't all have to be evil. And so I guess it's that caricature, it's that what we put out there, and TV kind of wrecks it for us, right? Like I think probably why I loved your watching your YouTube, and we'll be soon watching it all on Amazon, is, it's like, gosh, it's just so refreshing that, not that people are freaks, but you just don't look like a bunch of freaks. I mean, you're normal people. So it resonates with me. I'm not calling anybody a freak, by the way.
No,
I'm just
no.
saying, if I'm not a Wiccan. I'm not a psychic. There's nothing wrong with this stuff. I'm not a witch. It's just, I'm a normal person who's not afraid to go out and explore that stuff. And yes, I get scared. And what if I see a spider, I'll run, or I won't go into a room, but it's the just wanting to understand more about what could possibly be out there. And I think when you see shows like
Exactly.
yours, it gets me excited to see that, okay, see, there's more of us out there. And, I
Yeah.
wish more
Yeah.
people were attracted to that instead of the, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I guess.
Yeah. I sense I am a Travel Channel addict. I highly admit that. And I sense a change coming soon with shows like
Mm-hmm.
Kindred Spirits being out there, and the Broken Up Ghost Hunters coming back with 2 different shows, because they were a little more open-minded, willing to debunk, and it was never a demon. I just
Right.
feel like it's coming this way now, where it's more about the evidence and not creating a scary story, if that makes any sense.
It makes total sense. Yeah, I've said that probably the last few months. I keep saying that to the girls on the podcast, that, I think that there's a change coming, and I think that it's been played out, and I think that it's great that paranormal, I mean, it's popular. It's not underground anymore, right? Like I think sometimes we
Right.
still feel we're the outcast, but we're certainly not the outcast. I mean, all you can find is paranormal content everywhere. Podcasts, YouTubes, Amazon shows, Travel Channel shows. I mean, they're all over the
We
place.
are the
You'd be
cool
hard to
kids
not.
now.
We're the cool kids. So I think that, I think the other side's probably been played out. I think it's probably time to see all aspects, and I think that we miss something when we don't see all aspects of it, because I think that
Mhm.
I think the mob mentality is, you watch a show, and especially like with the Zach Baggage, you get these fans, the Warrens, they get these fans and they're diehard, and that's amazing. But boy, they will not venture off of that. That is it. That's the word, and that's what they go on. But it's like, that's
Yeah.
one aspect. That's their type. That's their style. That's their niche in paranormal. That doesn't mean that's the end all be all. And people get very defensive about, their leader. and I
Yeah.
think it's nice to have people that want to explore a little bit more and expand their circle. And I think for us, our podcast has opened us up to amazing ladies like yourself, that it's like, gosh, this is just such a breath of fresh air to be like, oh my God, there's somebody
Yeah.
out there I can talk to. And I will never say I'm right. I don't know if I'm right. But I'm also
Same.
not going to say that everybody else is right. Right. So there's
Exactly.
that.
Well, this was fun, Sarah. I loved it. Thank you so much for being on this. And go ahead and tell everybody where they can find a haunt mess. And you said that your group has a Facebook page as well, right?
Yeah, so my paranormal team is V as in Victor, P as in Paul, Paranormal, and you can find us on Facebook and on Instagram. And I run both of those. My sisters do absolutely nothing on those. And then a haunt mess, a haunt mess. You can find us on. Oh, I'm actually on Twitter as well, but I don't really do a lot of paranormal stuff on Twitter, except retweet stuff like if I see you, or a haunt mess stuff. But a haunt mess, you can get us on Twitter, which Dee Dee runs, Instagram, which I run horribly. Courtney runs the haunt mess on Facebook. And then we're also on YouTube. So subscribe and help us sister out.
Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Oddity Files is an independent production. Intro music created by DJ Jimmy. Wah wah. 2020 artwork created by me, Kitsie Duncan. The opinions expressed in this podcast are ours, and ours alone. Well, maybe yours too. If you like the show and would like to support us, visit oddityfiles.com and click on support, or go to patreon.com/oddityfiles. Every little bit helps with both the podcast and the TV show. You can also support us by watching Oddity Files on Amazon Prime. It's free to Prime members and dirt cheap to those who aren't. You can find us on all the social media sites at Oddity Files. Keep spreading the word by sharing, retweeting, and reposting. Join our Oddity Files Facebook group by searching Oddity Files Fan Group and click Join. We'll approve you as soon as we can. All weirdos are welcome. Not into that social media stuff? Tell your coworkers, family, even the weird guy who just won't stop talking to you in line for coffee. Oh, and Grandma. Your grandma will love us. We appreciate each and every one of you, and if it weren't for you, we have no idea what we would do with our lives. If you have a story you'd like to submit, send it on in at oddityfilescrew@gmail.com. Also, send in story ideas, silly, weird memes, or just positive vibes to oddityfilescrew@gmail.com. You can also call in and leave that in a voicemail. Call us at 317-300-6699. To contact us about an appearance, reach out at Kitsie at oddityfiles.com. When you have a sec, rate, review, and subscribe. We know it doesn't sound like much, but it really helps us get up there in the podcasting charts. And remember, kids, weird is the new cool. Ghost on. Why are you still here? Go on. Get out of here. Turn it off. It's done. Really? I swear. Go. Get. Serious, I'm out of here.